Hello everyone. In previous lesson we learned how to generate GraphQL hooks based on schema and how to fire requests against our mock server. We did it here, and when we checked in our browser it gives us this response with data which is object, which is array of empty to-dos. And in the mock server, if we will dump one more time, we will see that we have no to-dos in our mock server database. So in this lesson, we will learn how to populate our mock database with actual to-dos and how to see them in the response. First, we need to navigate back to our mock server index.ts file, and we need to declare additional property in our server configuration called seeds. Seeds, it's a function. Inside of this function, as a parameter, we will get server object, let's say server, and then we need to say server.create, let's say create one for now, and we say the model name to create, which is to do in our case, and we can say which data this to do should have. Let's say content equals some content. So the TypeScript is complaining because it doesn't know any about types of this model, but we will ignore it for a second. We need to check if everything is working in the browser, and then we will start typing it properly. So let's go back to our browser. In our response, we have to-dos, which already have something, which is to do with ID 1 and content some content. So exactly what we just defined, but we didn't define any IDs because by default, mirageJS provides us some basic dummy IDs out of the box. So we don't need to worry about it. Or if we want, we could say ID, let's say my test ID, and it would appear there. If we will go back again, we will say data, to-dos, to-do, and ID is my test ID. Also, Mirage allows us to create lists, server.create to-do, and we can say how many to-dos we need, let's say 5, and it will create us additional 5 to-dos. If we will go back to the browser, we will see that there will be 5 plus 1 to-do because we create one manually. And if we will open it, we will see, it's undefined. Response, because there is an error, cannot return null for non-nullable field to do content. Right, because by default, Mirage cares only about IDs, so it doesn't care about any content. So we need to specify some content field, content, let's say new content, and now Mirage should be happy. We don't worry about types. As I said, we will provide all of them properly a little bit later in a moment. So if we go here again, we open data, there is an object, to-dos, and there is two to-do. One with my test ID and another one with ID 1 and content, new content. But we said that there should be, because we said create, not create list. Now it should be 6 to-dos in the array. Yep, we have 6 to-dos, but the issue is that all of them has the same content. So in order to prevent that, we need to specify additional thing, which called factories. And factories, it's an object of models. Because we are working with to-do, we need to specify to-do. By the way, do you see there is no auto-completion, there is no types? So maybe let's type things first. Let's forget about this for a second. We need to specify types for our server config. And if we will take a look into our server types, we will see that we need to provide models and factories. Let's do that. Type mock server models, which is an object, and we need to say type mock server factories, because we need to type both, and it's also an object. And in models, we need to say that we have model named to do, which is a model definition, and we need to provide to do type. To do, and this type comes from generated types because we generated all the types with our code generator in previous lesson. And we need to say the same for factories to do, and we say factory definition this time, factory definition, and again to-do object. And we need to provide those two to our mock server to let him know that we have models and we have factories. And now you see we don't have any TypeScript errors anymore. And here, for example, if we will remove it and we will try to type with auto-completion, it will say to do. But if we will provide to do gibberish, it will say argument of type to do, blah, 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 is not assignable to parameter of type to do, because now server knows that we have in models only to do. By the way, I prefer to do it read only. Then we say, instead of any, we say our object. And here we will do the same. And now we need to fix it back to do. And by the way, if we will remove those fields and we will try to call auto-completion, it will know that there is an ID and there is a content. But let's bring everything back for a second. So, and let's continue with our factories. So factories now, as you see, if we will fire auto-completion, it knows that there might be only one factory for to do. And we say it's an object. And here we say, we need to say factory from Mirage, factory dot extend, because we're extending factory. And here we provide factory config for to do. And here we can say that we need content, which is a function, which brings us back some content. And in order to make it dynamic, we have a parameter index, and we can put it here, say idx some content. So the TypeScript is not happy again, because since we provided type to it, and to do should contain ID plus content. TypeScript doesn't know that Mirage provides IDs by default for us, so there is two ways to solve this issue. The first thing is just to provide an ID, this. Or there is another way to solve this issue, but I would prefer to stay with this one, but I will show you another one also. In order to do that, we need to specify type here, and we say partial to do. And then TypeScript will know that the factory provides only partial values. But I don't like this, because if there will be another property which is required, TypeScript will never complain here about this property. So choose what you need. Depends on the situation, because sometimes you don't want to run factory and, for example, you have an object with, I don't know, 50 fields, and for mock server it's enough to have only 5 of them. But without this type, TypeScript will say, hey, you need to provide everything to me, otherwise I'm not happy, something like this. So choose what you need depending on the situation. But in general, I prefer to factory everything, so I usually provide everything the factory asks me to provide. And basically, I don't like those IDs as an index. I prefer to put something like faker.uuid, something like this, but for now we will keep IDX. It will do the job just fine. And here we don't need that anymore, because every time we fire create function, it will fire factory for this one also, not needed. If we will go back to our browser, we will see that there will be 6 to-dos as it was before, but with a different data. 6 brand new unique to-dos in our database. So as a last step, maybe let's remove this one because we don't need it. And we can basically say that mock server, please create 10 to-dos for us. And then let's go back to the browser for a second, and we can say mock server dump 10 to-dos in a list. For this lesson, that's it. In this lesson, we learned how to populate our mock server database with the dummy data, how to generate dynamic data for models with factories. In the next lesson, we are going to create a small to-do application, because here we have basic scaffolded with class React application, and we have mock server connected to it. So it's time to create some basic UI, and then we can demonstrate how it is useful to use Mirage mock server with GraphQL inside tests. See you in the next video.